biggest scandal in the history of broadcasting. Right? The biggest scandal in the history of broadcasting, in my opinion. We'll see what happens. They're being sued. They're being sued by a lot of people. No, they should lose their license for that, right? You know, the fact is protected. How dare he say that? Why would he ever say lose it? They took her answer, threw it out, and gave her a new answer, and they're trying to defend it. Well, can you imagine if that happened with me? It would be over. The electric chair. And by the way, does anybody have any doubt that they worked with her campaign to get rid of that stupid answer? She's a mess. She's a cognitive mess, and nobody wants to talk about it. And we can't
So
have.
listen, he's going to have to try and prove all of this. I mean, he certainly has a few things on the side. Think about this. Remember the interview that Joe Biden was going to do with the Philadelphia news anchor at Black-owned radio station, and it turns out they gave every single question that they wanted Joe Biden to be asked to this lady, and she CNN and she admitted it. Kind of, no, well, first of all, you never take questions, especially when the guy's running for president. My gosh, I mean, that's like journalism 101. Whatever. The point being, they were looking for these friendly media spots. They must have assumed CBS was friendly media. But his point is, like, it can't always be friendly media, right? Like, this is getting a little ridiculous. So again, launching a whole host of lawsuits. I want to just point to some of them. This is a big deal. The New York Times is actually personally suing some of the article's authors that were politically, in his view, targeting him, including Peter Baker, Michael Schmidt, Suzanne Craig, and Russ Buter for, quote, false and defamatory statements about Donald Trump, adding that the New York Times is, quote, a full-throated mouthpiece of the Democrat Party that wages, quote, industrial-scale libel against political opponents. It certainly felt that way. I mean, look what I keep going back to this because it's just the most vivid example of how insane the media is. When the New York Post got that laptop, that was Hunter Biden's laptop, courtesy of Rudy Giuliani, who gave it to them because somebody had called Rudy about it. And the entire media establishment said, no way. I mean, it reminded me like 2020. You know, the entire media establishment said, how dare you talk out against lockdowns? How dare you speak out and say that maybe, I don't know, the virus might have come from the lab in Wuhan, China, where they're actually working on how to develop this particular virus? I mean, we can't say these things. You couldn't say these things. And that's a pretty scary thing. What you could say was Donald Trump was bad. Donald Trump was awful. Donald Trump was Hitler. And he's saying, hang on, this was false. It was defamatory. You deserve to be sued for it. Because you know what? It's still a free country. This is still America after all. I get he's a public figure, okay? And when you're a public figure, you kind of don't get the same benefit as somebody who's not a public figure. That said, when it becomes that egregious and then insane, you know, they're talking about the Russian tape, remember that one? That was all a bunch of bogus nonsense. I mean, at some point, where's the responsibility? They do become, if you would, mouthpieces for an established regime, and it becomes a threat, finally, to the overall well-being of our society. That's what happens. With the 19-page wait, they're seeking $10 billion in damages for CBS in particular, accusing CBS of, quote, going into overdrive to get Kamala elected. Now, the reason this kind of an issue with the CBS is that they're going over the emails, right? They're going over the SEC. It's more different over here where they're making show and say whatever I want for the most part. But, you know, I am very responsible and I wouldn't do crazy stuff or say crazy things. Out of respect for myself, out of respect for you guys, but apparently they're totally fine doing all the crazy stuff over at these mainstream media outlets like CBS or like the New York Times. So he's accusing this outlet of, quote, partisan and unlawful acts of voter interference through malicious, deceptive, and substantial news distortion. Okay, so that's just CBS. He's also going after, as I said, the New York Times. He's going after Penguin Random House, the Daily Beast, and this is what happened, right? You cannot make up lies about someone, print them, as fact and think it's perfectly fine. He also has complained to the Federal Election Commission about the Washington Post. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, saying that the Post, which you'll recall, remember, refused to endorse the candidate, maybe in part because of this stuff. The allegations he's making, I guess, against Donald Trump, he's making these allegations of illegal, in-kind contributions to Harris's campaign. That's sort of fascinating. So when the Washington Post is just over and over and over and over again printing all this whatever, and it's all pro-Kamala and anti-Trump, at what point does that become almost, if you would, kind of like a political donation? And as this, quote, newspaper of record, should you really be that far extended? It's an interesting question, and may have contributed to why Jeff Bezos said, you know what, we're not going to actually endorse candidates in the future. I think that was a wise decision. I mean, if you present yourself as journalism with a capital J, then why are you going around stumping for this candidate or that candidate? I mean, unless there's money involved. Is that what this is? Is this just pure capitalism? Is it money? Because, you know, I know Reverend Al Sharpton was caught up in a bit of a scandal with MSNBC. Apparently his organization collected some $500,000 before he sat down on MSNBC with Kamala Harris. We get Oprah Winfrey, who's like, no, I didn't do this. I didn't get any money. But Harpo Productions got money, $1 million, according to the Washington Examiner, who has reviewed all of the election filings. And this is bad. This is really, 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 really bad. And he should be suing. He should go after all of them. I'm happy to see this because you know what? We need some sanity restored to the media.
This is a brand new zombie, open world More PG mobile game. You start in a graveyard without quests and guidance. All you can do is wander and explore the graveyard. There are various levels of Zumbars scattered throughout. You must continuously kill Zumbars to gain X and unlock new skills. You need to reach level 100 to enter the Newbie Village. All Zumbars here can drop rare items and equipments. Find treasure chests to obtain weapons and increase...
To do this, he's quite good at this. And you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean Trump. Yeah. He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing? They say he's like this every single day, nonstop, over there at The View, and I suspect that all this stuff kind of adds up to kind of an advertising in kind, if you would. I mean, it's funny. You're completely bad about it. Spectacularly backfired. People were so sick of this that, you know, they're like, I don't trust that mainstream media anymore. I don't want to hear those lies. And so they saw through it. But does it change the fact that they're defaming him in the process if they're saying things that are not true? And to be very clear, the reason this is important right now is not just Donald Trump, but because anybody who comes along and represents a different point of view than the establishment elites in the media, they represent a threat to them, and they're going to go after them with everything they've got. Remember when they said Mitt Romney was going to put blacks back in chains? Or do you remember when for 5 minutes they thought that Ron DeSantis actually had a shot? And that Donald Trump might not run, and that Ron DeSantis was going to be the candidate for president? How quickly they turned on him. Whoopi Goldberg, the same Whoopi that can't say Trump without spitting. She started saying that Ron DeSantis was doing what he could to erase white people. And he doesn't. He deserves to be too.
Tired of explaining it. I'm tired of explaining it. Here is DeSantis. Many of us have been here for generations. And you said something. I don't think he has.
And by
No, I don't think he has.
by the way, he's not that this is what matters. He's undercut his best argument with electability against Trump. I'm the more electable candidate. In the past few weeks alone, in addition to this fiasco around AP Black History, He's also had to let a staffer go for sharing a outright Nazi meme. He's put out that insane anti-LGBTQ Pride Month video that he'd never, I don't believe, denounced. And every day there's just a new report of like chaos within his campaign. He keeps you guys know, I once liked DeSantis. I was like, oh, he seems interesting. He's revealing
He's
himself
like
to
him
be
until apparently it wasn't expedient for you to like him anymore. But you heard Whoopi, right? She's worried that DeSantis was going to erase black people. I bring that up because it's important for everybody to understand. This is not, I mean, Trump's very good fighting back with all he's got, but it's not exclusive to Donald Trump. This is what they do to Republicans. This is their line of attack. I mean, go all the way back to the days of Barry Goldwater. They were trying to call him a Nazi. Barry Goldwater. And this is what they do. Okay, so here we are, and you got somebody who's like, I'm not gonna take it. Sue. And then the media's like, oh my goodness, this is such a threat. The Committee to Protect Journalists is calling Trump's threats against the press a quote, clear and direct danger to media freedom. Clear direct danger to people's reputation. To their own personal lives, when they say all kinds of things about it. They basically something that is considered the other means of they all sit there and take it. Now, suddenly you gotta die. I don't think the play a fair set of rules. Very
dead. And you!
Last night, millions of Americans for painful hours. Yet ever
I'm showing you this clip because you remember Tucker Carlson. He dared to go in the direction There's two that do the exact same thing. The market falling out of it. CNN needs to get off of this crash. Terrifying. Constant 24/7 coverage of COVID and like take a deep breath and get rid of man, guys. I knew what they would do with that, right? I knew what they would do with that. I knew what they would do with that. Thank goodness they did. They would go out and say, hey, I'm going to expose your J6. They actually investigated all the tape. You have Nancy Pelosi's daughter's editing version of this. I'm going to go get the actual raw tape and show it to people. They made a decision, by the way. Packed up in all that. They did it, frankly, because they were cheap and smarter than the other. Understand vulnerability surrounding them, so they had to pay $30. That actually wasn't Tucker. It was out of her ski time. But we decided to get rid of that. Schumer.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned into one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night on the January 6th Capitol attack. Non-violent incident. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulated viewers. Mr. Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain. It's nothing that shameful that has ever appeared on American television in history.
Did you notice how he wasn't do that theory following week?
Down, Grandmaster. I need
They want
you.
how it works, right? I'll tell you how it works. There's an establishment elite that makes the decisions about where we're going at all times. And if you are not in sync with that, you're on the outs. Well, guess what? There's a new establishment. America just elected a new establishment elite. So that means we ought to be able to say what we think. We ought to be able to have real conversations.